But what is the Trial Reservoir? Why are we celebrating its anniversary? The reservoir blends a loan financing instrument with a technology accelerator for innovators, with a technology assessment service for end users, with introductions to potential investors. We put the sponsor's money into a pot, the reservoir, along with a quarter of our own profits, and we use that pot to give loans to technology developers to carry out trials in collaboration with the end users. Designing and validating technology trials is routine work in the consulting side of ISLE. Within the reservoir, we do it on a non-profit basis. There are 3 conditions a trial must satisfy in order to come into the reservoir. First, there must be a climate change mitigation benefit. Second, there must be a trial and purchase agreement in place between the technology developer and the end user, and this commits the end user to deploy the technology to procure something if the trial is a success. Thirdly, there must be key measurable key performance indicators in place before the trial begins. These are things that the end user and the tech developer decide between them, and we help them design and agree on those KPIs. Then we support the trial with our technical expertise. If the trial is a success, then the KPIs are met, the end user implements the technology, and the tech developer repays the loan using that revenue. If, however, despite everyone's best efforts, the trial fails, then the end user is not obliged to procure anything, and the technology developer doesn't have to pay back the loan. We write it off. So we take on the financial risk. In a few minutes, we'll hear from some folks who've been through this whole process. But before we get to that, let's look back at how all this began. I asked Piers, our chairman, the man who had the idea in the first place, to explain.
Well, it was the summer of 2021. I was actually on holiday. I was on holiday with my brother in a beautiful part of the UK called the Yorkshire Moors, and we were walking the Yorkshire Moors with our family. Now, my brother is a very senior person working in the wind farm industry. And it was on the day when the first IPCC report came out that basically said, the world's on fire unless we do things, unless we act now. And there's been 3 subsequent reports, and the world really still hasn't paid enough attention to them. But this was the day when the first IPCC report came out, and my brother and I were walking. We were talking about the impact of this report, and we're both in, I think, senior environmental roles and struggling with, well, what can we do? And that became the tone of the whole day. And that evening, we were all in a big Italian restaurant in a lovely village in Yorkshire. And now just for the record, I'm a 2 beers man. So I'll have 2 beers and I'm in a sort of happy place. But that night, for some reason, I had 3. Perhaps because I had 3 beers. At the end of the meal, I had a coffee. I never drink coffee. But at the end of the meal, I said, yeah, I'll have a coffee. So what that meant was that night, as I lay in my Airbnb next to my beautiful wife, I had a little bit more alcohol and a lot more caffeine coursing through my veins. And at 3 a.m, I swear to you, the Trial Reservoir concept came to me. It came to me as this is what's needed. This could change how we adopt new technology. This could be the way to speed up getting climate addressing technologies into the water sector faster, so that those issues that have been flagged by the IPCC report could be addressed better. I was so excited. I shook my wife and woke her up and said, I've just had this amazing idea. To this day, Stella doesn't show quite the level of excitement about the Trial Reservoir as I think it deserves. But that aside, I then had to, of course, persuade my shareholders that investing in the Trial Reservoir, that this opportunity to do something different was something that was so important that actually, what you needed was someone to put some money into a pot to kick it off. And I was so proud that my shareholders, which is XPV Venture Partners, a private equity firm in Canada, they agreed to give us the cornerstone of investment that then enabled the Trial Reservoir to become what it is today. And what it is today, it is worth saying that whilst it's very gracious of you, Joe, to say, Piers, you're the man who had the idea to start with, actually, other people have turned that slightly mad idea that happened on the Yorkshire happened in a slightly drunken, caffeine-induced night in Yorkshire a couple of years ago. You've turned it into something so much better, so much more wonderful than I could ever have dreamed. And I am so thankful to you and to our sponsors and to everyone who has stepped up: utilities, tech companies, investors, sponsors, people within Isle, everyone who's taken that gem of a slightly mad idea and turned it into something truly, truly wonderful.
Thank you, Piers. It's certainly been an exciting year. Over 100 technology companies have engaged with the Trial Reservoir. It's a slow process, innovation always is, and the journey from the top of the funnel to the bottom has been taking anything from 4 months to 12. 5 trials have come to an end so far. For one, it was clear that the equipment wasn't suited to the end user's working conditions, so under the philosophy of the reservoir, the user's commitment to purchase fell away and the technology company's loan was written off. However, for the first time today, you're going to hear about some trials which have emerged triumphant at the foot of the tunnel.